before the sun had time to shine on the remote seas of Asia. Hundreds of old wooden and iron ships had already cut through the waves, heading into the deep waters where giant stingrays still silently crawl on the ocean floor. This was no ordinary fishing trip, but a dangerous and mysterious journey, hunting for sea monsters that can weigh up to a ton, have a wingspan of more than 6 meters and hide under the deep sand of the sea. Asian fishermen, especially in Thailand, Indonesia, the Philippines and Vietnam, have passed down the techniques of hunting giant stingrays from generation to generation, which contain not only survival skills but also human courage and bravery in front of the sea. Before the hunt begins, fishermen will gather at the harbor the night before. Fishing lines larger than a human wrist, hand-forged iron hooks as thick as ship anchor hooks, live baits of small fish or fresh squid, all are carefully prepared. They use motorboats or long wooden boats, which can be single boats or groups of 2 to 3 boats to support each other. The selected sea area is often the area near the river mouth flowing into the sea, or deep coral reefs, where stingrays often feed at night. There are many methods to hunt stingrays, but the most common way is to use hand lines or bottom nets. With hand lines, person will directly hold a fishing line hundreds of meters long connected to a giant iron hook. When the stingray bites the hook, the entire body of the person holding the line must exert strength to resist the pulling force from the bottom of the sea. Many fishermen have slipped into the water while trying to hold the line, but many people have said that the feeling of being pulled back towards the sea for the first time by a force like a moving submarine is something they will never forget. The entire body of the stingray is like a giant heavy blanket slapping the water, pulling the line like an uncontrollable monster. If they go bottom trawling, fishermen will lower a very thick net, spread evenly close to the seabed where there are signs of stingrays. This type of net is specially designed to prevent fish from escaping by using small mesh and extremely strong ropes. When the stingrays are caught in the net, they will struggle violently, sometimes even burrowing deep into the mud to escape. Fishermen have to use force to pull and adjust the direction of the boat to gradually pull the net, avoiding the fish from tearing the net and escaping. There were times when it took 3 to 4 hours and 6 to 7 men to bring a stingray weighing nearly 800 kilograms into the hold. The story of stingray hunting is even more fascinating when we know that many fishermen dive into the sea with only masks and bamboo spears, hunting stingrays like their ancestors did. In fishing villages in the Philippines and Indonesia, stingray divers often go in pairs. One person will observe on the boat. The other dives down with a long spear with a triangular iron hook. They quietly approach the stingray when it lies under the sand. Only its eyes and head are exposed. A quick and precise stab will penetrate the back or head. Then both join forces to pull the fish up. In the darkness of the seabed, where sunlight cannot reach, the battle between humans and giant stingrays takes place in silence, with only the sound of heartbeats and breathing gradually drawn out through the snorkel. It is not uncommon for fishermen to be hit by stingrays, causing damage to their spines or torn limbs by venomous spines. Stingrays can kill people if stabbed in the chest or abdomen. Therefore, every time they go out to sea, Fishermen pray for calm seas and hope that they will not be the next to be injured. But paradoxically, the more dangerous the stingray, the more valuable it is. The meat of giant stingrays is not only used to prepare local dishes but also sold to high-end restaurants in big cities. Stingray skin can be used to make decorations, high-end handbags or luxury leather shoes. Giant stingray can bring in between $1.000 and $3.000, a considerable sum for coastal residents today. Hunting giant stingrays is restricted in many places due to concerns about resource depletion and the protection of rare fish species. But for Asian fishermen, the memory of a time when they hunted stingrays is still vivid in every wrinkle on their face, every callus on their hands, every hook carefully hung in their house. They hunt stingrays not only for food, but also for honor. For tradition and for a promise to the sea, that humans will always dare to face something bigger than themselves. In the deepest darkness of the ocean, centuries have passed. From the deep waters of the Gulf of Thailand to the Kangeo estuary. From Mindoro Island in the Philippines to the Malacca Strait in Indonesia. The image of fishermen hunting giant stingrays still exists as a symbol of courage. Small boats, bamboo spears, hundreds of meters of rope, and the look of a father passing it to his son before setting sail. That is what makes this story never get old. And as you stand on the shore, looking out at the horizon where small boats are disappearing into the silver waves, know that somewhere, another war is beginning, between humans and ocean monsters. Between the desire to survive and the untold secrets of the deep. The hunt for giant stingrays is not just a profession, but a living legend, which continues to be written every day under the tropical skies of Asia. As the first rays of sunlight rise over the eastern coast of Taiwan, gentle waves lap against the pier like a familiar morning greeting. Nanfangao Harbor, one of Taiwan's famous fishing centers, begins to bustle. The sound of ship engines, the fishermen's calls to each other, the salty smell of the sea, all blend into a familiar symphony. But today is a special day. Old Jiang's crew will set sail to hunt for sunfish, a giant, strange and rare fish that people call the ghost of the ocean. To hunt for sunfish, you cannot rely on nets or modern machinery alone. It is an art, a combination of maritime knowledge, traditional experience and a special intuition honed over decades of wandering the ocean. Before the trip, old Jiang sat for hours with an ocean current map, watching the warm Kuroshio current drift through the waters off Hualien. Sunfish have a special habit, they often surface at noon to sunbathe, absorbing vitamin D after diving deep into the cold sea. But not every day is like that. A small change in wind, current, or temperature can make them disappear without a trace. Today's boat crew consisted of 4 people, all of whom were former students of old Jiang. They set out before dawn, carrying a special soft net nearly 100 meters long, designed not to hurt the sunfish if they accidentally collided. But the main weapon was not the net, it was a hand-held fishing rod made of super strong nylon wire. Live bait, and a special hook forged from stainless steel with a rounded tip, so that when the fish got hooked, they could still be released without serious damage. In the vast ocean, the boat was as small as a floating leaf. But for old Jang, this was his familiar stage. He looked up at the sky, smelled the wind, and watched flocks of seabirds gliding above the waves. The gulls were guides, where they circled. There were usually small fish, and nearby, perhaps, a giant sunfish was rising to bask. Suddenly, he raised his hand to stop the machine. The sea was as calm as a mirror. Then, like magic, a round, shadowy figure appeared in the water. It drifted slowly, as if unaware of the presence of humans. The bait was dropped gently, a fresh squid tied with a thin thread. The nylon line was taut, gently but firmly. No jerks. No rush. Old Jang waited patiently, his hand gripping the line, feeling every little vibration. And then, plop, a gentle but decisive pull. The whole team worked together, holding the rod, adjusting the line, and watching the sunfish swim silently in circles. It did not struggle violently like tuna or swordfish. It circled, slowly but powerfully, like a sea god punishing intruders. After nearly 40 minutes of gentle struggle, the fish was brought close to the boat. It was an incredibly strange creature. Its body was round like a flying saucer, its two large fins like propellers flapping rhythmically in the water. Its eyes were small, sparkling like dewdrops. Looking at humans without fear, old Jang decided not to take it back. He gently removed the hook, rubbed the fish's head once as a farewell, and let it slide back into the ocean. The sunfish were fitted with tiny GPS tracking devices behind their dorsal fins, so that scientists could track their migration. Many international research organizations, especially from Japan, the US and Australia, have come to Nanfang to cooperate with fishermen like old Jang. They are the bridge between modern science and traditional experience, two seemingly unrelated worlds that complement each other perfectly. Returning to port as dusk fell over the water, the small boat was filled with laughter, thrilling stories and relief. There was no great booty to be brought home today, but for Mr. Truong and his crew, they had hunted the most precious thing, a moment to touch the soul of the ocean. A week later, the mild wind season blew in from the south. The weather turned warm and sunny. The sky was clear. And the Kuroshio current seemed to be moving in the direction that the sunfish usually traveled. This was the golden time. Not only Mr. Truong, but also other young fishermen, like Mr. Lam, 35, who used to sail in Japan and had returned to Taiwan to learn how to hunt sunfish, were eager to prepare. Mr. Lam had a different approach from Mr. Truong. While Mr. Truong believed in intuition and natural signs, Mr. Lam applied modern technology. He installed underwater cameras, used ultrasound equipment to detect large-scale creatures, and even monitored data from NOAA satellites to analyze the water temperature suitable for Mola Mola. But he still maintained absolute respect for folk experience. Every time he went to sea, Mr. Lam would go to Mr. Truong's house to ask for advice, then quietly write it down in his small black notebook. One afternoon in May, Lin's crew spotted a long shadow drifting near Guishon Island. A low-flying drone captured what the team saw, a school of at least 5 sunfish swimming close to the surface, moving slowly as if drifting through extraterrestrial space. The sight, huge, rotund bodies, fan-like fins, tiny eyes glowing in the sunlight, was breathtaking. No one touched the nets. No one tried to catch them. Instead, they lowered their cameras, took water samples, recorded behavioral data. It was a moment when fishermen and science became one. Without boundaries. After returning to port, Lin shared the data with his university research team, helping them understand more about the fish's emergence cycles, distinctive behaviors, and even how they moved with the ocean currents. Not all fishermen felt this way, but more and more young people were starting to change. They no longer see the ocean as an endless gold mine, but as a living land, with emotions, with souls, and in need of preservation. In Nanfangao port, a group of fishermen even formed the Sun Hunters Association, not to hunt, but to observe, record and guide international tourists to experience seasonal Mola Mola trips out to sea. Tourists from Germany, France, the US, Japan, and even Vietnam stood with their mouths agape when they first saw a fish as big as a truck drifting past their boat, looking straight at them as if it were talking. Many tourists burst into tears of emotion. They had never imagined that there would be such a strange, gentle and beautiful creature in the world that went beyond the bounds of common logic. Another afternoon, old Zhang brought a boy, his grandson, onto the boat for the first time. The boy was 10 years old, his eyes shining like stars. The old man put his hand on his grandson's shoulder and said, "This sea has fed me all my life. If you want to live with the sea, don't just learn how to catch fish. Learn to understand fish. Learn to love it as you love your own flesh and blood." The sunfish, to him, was a symbol, not a trophy. It was the greatest lesson of a fisherman's life: patience. Humility and harmony. Catching a Mola Mola was easier than keeping one's heart pure in the face of greed. In July, when the rainy season comes, the sea becomes grey. The waves are higher and rougher. Small boats rarely go out to sea. But at that time, a group of sunfish often appear near the shore to sunbathe after the rain. It is a rare opportunity, and also a time to test the courage of veteran fishermen. Sunfish, unlike any other fish. Not just because of its strange shape, but because it evokes a sense of awe in people. Taiwanese fishermen do not hunt it for meat, for money, but to touch the mystery of nature. Winter in the eastern sea of Taiwan is not noisy. Winds from Beijing and Siberia sweep across the sandbank and whip up huge waves like sharp blades. Small boats are anchored tightly in the harbor. Occasionally only a few large ships dare to venture out to sea. This is not the ideal season for sunfish hunting, but for veterans like Mr. Truong, this is the most sacred time. Sunfish are rare in the cold season, but every time you see them, it is a blessing, he said. Voice as if telling a legend. During the days when the north wind is strongest, he and his old friend, Uncle Chu, often get on the boat. Not to hunt fish, but just to drift. They drifted freely on the sea surface for many hours, just listening to the sound of the wind, of the waves, and watching the cold streaks of light through the grey water. Turning back, a round body floated in the middle of the rain. A giant Mola, swimming close to the boat as if looking for shelter from the storm. It did not panic, did not run away. It just swam in circles, then lay still quietly, fanning its fins gently as if sleeping. Old Truong just sat there, eyes filled with tears. That was the first time he touched a sunfish without a hook, without bait. Without a net. Just pure trust between man and fish. It showed me that, even in the harsh winter, the sea still has a heart. He told everyone afterwards. The story quickly spread like a new legend in the fishing village. From then on, people called that fish winter sunfish. One of the strange hunting techniques that only a few Taiwanese fishermen still retain is the bottom light spot. When the sea is calm and the sky is moonless, they drop a special lamp, a soft white light, several dozen meters deep. Mola are curious, especially when moving near the mid-layer. When they see a strange light on the bottom, they often come close, spinning as if dancing. This is when the fishermen just stand still, no pulling the rope, no casting the net, just observing. Then marking the location. The next time they will return, drop the camera to monitor the fish's behavior, then report back to the researchers. There is no shortage of strange stories about Mola in the lives of Taiwanese fishermen. Once, during a storm in 2016, a group of young fishermen's boat got stuck 12 nautical miles from shore. The Wind was strong. The engine broke down, and the boat drifted aimlessly. In the pitch-black darkness of the ocean, they saw a giant sunfish swimming around the boat for 3 hours. Thanks to the reflection of the fish's skin, they determined the direction of the current. Finally, they decided to tie the boat to drift in the direction of the fish, and miraculously, after a few hours, they were discovered by rescuers near the shore. From then on, they believed that the fish was their guardian angel of the sea.